Good evening and welcome to this April 7th, 2025 meeting of the Akron Public School Board's Instructional Policy and Student Achievement Committee. Thank you for joining us. I am Diana Autry, Chair. I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Bruce Alexander and Ms. Dr. Renee Molnar. As well in attendance is Dr. Caver. I don't believe there's any request to address the board in this committee. We don't usually get that, but it is certainly welcome if that ever becomes the case. And so we will move on into our agenda item 1.01, our minutes. Are there any additions, corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, we will accept these minutes as submitted to us, and we will turn things over to Dr. Caver. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Autry. Good evening or good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. So I want to bring your attention to one item that will be on the next board agenda, and that is additional funding that we are receiving from the Akron Community Foundation. So just wanted to let you know that that grant award in the amount of $126,000 will be coming to the school district. Just wanted to bring that to your attention in support of our 8th grade Changemaker Challenge. And we are thankful to our partners for continuing to support us. Business affairs recommendation right now is item 23.9, and that is again with our college and career academies, continuing with our agreement with the Cuyahoga Valley National Park and the Conservancy for Cuyahoga Valley National Park. So the renewal of their work with ELLIT, and just wanting to bring that to your attention once again. And today, we have 2 items on the agenda, so I would like to get started. First, we will have the social studies adoption from Adam Motter. He is the supervisor for social studies here in Akron Public Schools, and I'm going to turn it over to him to speak to the board today.
Okay, Board Member Autry, Board Member Molinar, Board Member Alexander, good afternoon. It is an honor to be here. I'd like to spend about 15 minutes or so talking about a recommendation we have to you for social studies. And this involves a K-3 social studies adoption. This is the first time in, geez, it's been a minute. It's been probably 15 years plus where we've been looking at new materials. And that'll get kind of understood further into this conversation as well. And also, we do have a singleton AP European History, which will show up at the end of the presentation as well. Next slide, that's me. I did want to just point out quickly that it is my hope in the presentation that you will see connections to Cornerstone 1 around safety and belonging, certainly Cornerstone 2 around achievement, and interestingly enough, Cornerstone 4, because you're going to see some pieces in this curriculum that really connect our students to their community and their families to this community. And this opportunity for us really makes those connections far better than with this curriculum that we've maybe seen so far. I also did want to take a quick second with this slide. You are the last, and last is not least, last but certainly not least, most important piece to this puzzle. This process has connected partners, our scholars, our parents and families, community members, and our APS teachers through this adoption process, and you'll see that throughout as well. One last caveat before we begin, special thank yous. Our teachers really went above and beyond, our elementary teachers. You know that many of them give their time, talent, and energy for not just this adoption, but for other elementary adoptions. They have to go through a lot of evaluation of vendors to do this. They probably don't want to see me show up again with my evaluations. But, as you learn more and curriculum, you develop best practices, these evaluations need updated almost, every year or so as you learn best practices to ensure that we're getting the best things for our teachers and students. Another special thank you we have a district coach, his name is Chris Sims. He's been invaluable in this process. He is a social studies teacher, a social studies coach for the district. He's worked with many teachers in this process, done a fantastic job. And lastly, a special thank you for our very own Dr. Caver, who has really shepherded this process through, as she does with all adoptions. But it's been, so far, this has been, like I said, we haven't done this in a long time, and making sure we get this just right has been very important. So thank yous are out of the way, and a couple quick other overviews for you. Just to remind you, as you probably already know, we start our adoption process. We bring teacher teams and steering teams in separately. We unpack our priorities and goals for the curriculum, what our big picture is, what we're hoping to do. Then we bring them in again, and actually go through a very sophisticated evaluation instrument with them, where they even have the chance to adapt and change the evaluation instrument. So we get them ready, and then we set them off into the first semester where they get their vendors and they start evaluating. They unpack the programs. They look at things based on their evaluation. They actually pull stuff out and share it with the students so the students can manipulate and play with things and give them feedback. And they do all the way that through the first semester. And then in the second semester, January, February, we actually bring in our top vendors. And in this case, it was our top 3. We bring them in for formal presentations. And that's when the teachers get, there's only so much you can understand by yourself. When the vendor comes in, they walk you through what this would look like, what it would look like for the students, what it would look like for the teachers. They have an entirely separate evaluation for that, and they go through that entire process. They then have discussions about each vendor, what was really good that we learned that we didn't know before, what are some challenges that we didn't know before but we know now, and they come up with a recommendation to the steering team. Then they present to the steering team, and then the steering team brings forward its recommendation to the superintendent and to you as a board for your consideration. Another just quick FYI for you, this is also something you probably already know, but in social studies in Akron and with our state standards, and indeed across the nation, there's sort of a philosophical way that social studies is taught. And it's always taught from, the inside out. So we always start in kindergarten with the self. And then the next thing is family. And then the next thing is, well, what about my other family? What do people do for a living? What's a teacher and a fireman and a policeman and a scientist and so forth and so on. Then in third grade, it extends out to your community. What does your community look like? And what does time look like in your community? And money look like in your community and so forth. And then, of course, it gets into your state and nation. But for our presentation today, we adopted recently social studies materials from 4 through 12. We're filling a gap in through K through 3, and I wanted to remind you what the philosophical sort of big picture of what social studies looks like at those grades. When we started out with teachers, we did have some key areas of growth based on data and priorities in the district, and you can read those for yourself, but it shouldn't come as a surprise to you that we really wanted to focus on ensuring all our learners had the ability to get into the curriculum, to understand the learning targets, our standards, and have that process available to them in multiple ways. Additionally, we want to teach social studies through multiple perspectives. In the historical narrative, we want our students to see different kinds of people and different ways of thinking, to be curious about their community through inquiry learning, and of course, the foundational. This is a good time to tell you, according to Marzano's research, over 50% of content vocabulary in all standardized ELA tests, grades 3 through 12, over 50% of that content vocabulary actually comes from social studies. And a lot of the vocabulary and concepts on those tests are only taught in social studies curriculum. So it is a great thing that we're getting these foundational pieces in our K-3 program. I believe it will help us make sure our students are well-rounded and support their learning as we do integration across ELA and so forth. Would be remiss if you were wondering, of course, when we do an adoption, we look at all kinds of things, and this list is not comprehensive. But these are more of the types of things that we always look at when we do an adoption. It is a comprehensive look at a curriculum program. Okay, so without further ado, we had 5 vendors pass our RFP. You can see them listed here. We narrowed it down through our teacher evaluations, a top 3 list, McGraw-Hill. This next one is called Social Studies School Services, Nystrom. They combined, right, and kind of kept both names. That's how we say that. And the last one is Studies Weekly. Those were our top 3. Based on a unanimous recommendation to the steering team, the teachers recommended Social Studies School Services, Nystrom. The program, by the way, is called Young Citizens. The steering team, after it received its recommendations, unanimously recommends to the superintendent and to this board for your consideration, Social Studies School Services, Nystrom, the Young Citizens program. I want to stay high level, but I did want to share some data with you. This is the evaluation from the second evaluation. This is the Young Citizens program when they came in to Akron and presented to our teachers. And for each of these lines, there are 3, 4, 5 questions, evaluative questions that the teachers quantitatively score. So we use a lot of quantitative data based on our priorities and, of course, the standards to evaluate which one is best. We also use qualitative data represented here. These are some of the teacher comments after the Young Citizens program presented. These are the types of things that they laid out so the teachers and the steering team could actually corroborate. Did you see this as well? How important is this to you? And so we used quantitative and qualitative analysis to come up with the best of the best for our Akron students. Okay? So let's take a dive into this. So this is just outside, and what you're looking at right here is the student textbook for, I believe this is first grade. We have class sets of textbooks, and as you can see on the online version that they would get on their Chromebooks, by the way, we're recommending this, and this is for a 7-year digital license. The social studies is actually explored for the students through a number of characters in a story form, where they're curious about something, they They want to learn more about something. The students then engage in these curiosities and learn more. So it's a very engaging inquiry-forward look at social studies education in these primary grades. There's also credit to the teachers. Lots of hands-on activities that go with this. Here you can see, they have student handouts laid out and ready for the teachers, which, by the way, they love that. This is ready to use for the teachers. But there's group activity cards. There's, the type of laminated maps where the students learn how to read a map and how to look at a map in their community and indeed in the U.S. and world. And then there's these mini globes that you'll see out there, which our teachers absolutely are. I mean, we lost all our sample. We lost, air quote, all our samples. They had to send us some more, which the vendor happily did. They said, we're not the first district that's happened to. So a couple big picture things here. I do want to remind you, we do have some newer expectations around the teaching of social studies as it's built into the elementary school day. And this is an overcrowded curriculum, as you know. Our teachers were tasked with not only selecting the best of the best, but additionally, it's got to spark curiosity for the students. It has, we need a hands-on approach where the students are engaged and excited about activities. It does have to be logistically achievable in our curriculum. And this is where that asterisk comes in after the word tasked. Right now, our teachers, they do a million things a day. They have 1,000 achievements every single day, if not more. And getting the social studies activities and connections, getting that time in, they're going to get better at it over time. And I asked our teams, we need to pick resources for our school district that can grow and adapt over time, which they did. That's why this is also a very exciting decision for you. Obviously, this fall, our K-3 teachers will be ready. They will be able to step out this curriculum directly with the students. The teachers, as usual, will receive orientation, not just in the summer, but in the fall, to ensure that our students are all getting this amazing curriculum. So I just put on some quotes there for you from some amazing teachers, so you could see in their own words some of the things they're deeply excited about with this new program. And I know I went through a lot. There is one last thing. We do have an AP European History course. This is a pathway at Firestone High School for students. It's sort of an on-ramp, off-ramp for students, pre-IB students. And we have not adopted a textbook for them in some time. Our major focus is we want our students to be successful on that AP test. We had to do an evaluation based on our students' data in the AP European History course and then find the right curriculum that would support that data, which that is also up for your consideration. Just in case you're wondering, this is usually 2 sections at Firestone. It is a year-long course. So with that said, I know I gave you a lot. I tried to go quickly at a high level, but at this time, I would ask if you have any questions. I'd be happy to help.
Thank you, Mr. Motter, for your presentation, and to the entire team who assisted with this process. So 15 years is a long time. So I'm sorry if I missed it. So what is the main reason behind it being such a long time?
It's a great question. You are all well aware, probably more than many, of the changing mandates around reading and math, and our programming to support that. Our ELA adoption obviously integrates elements of social studies and elements of science and other things. One of the challenges has been just finding enough time. And as we want to be good stewards of taxpayers' dollars, we don't want to adopt something that the teachers aren't going to use or don't have time to use or are unsure the best way to integrate in with a ELA program that requires fidelity and requires a certain capacity toward. Just in the last year or so, well, certainly this last year, we have instructionally carved in some time for social studies at elementary. And students, teachers are, they did social studies here and there when they could, but to actually have time for a dedicated program, I think that's one of the big differences. I would also defer to Dr. Caver if I missed anything there.
No.
Okay.
I guess I haven't been here long enough to know why it took 15
yeah.
years, so I'm sorry, but I can't answer
Oh,
that.
yeah. That's the historical sort of longer picture of it was, well, do we really want to get this right now? Let's focus on something else right now. And, the more you kick the can down the road, the harder sometimes it is to come back to, but we are doing the right thing here, and it will be fantastic.
Dr. Caver.
I do have one thing to add. I will say that I did make the decision with Adam to only adopt K-12 2 years ago, and it was due to all of the demands that were already placed on our K-3 teachers at the time. When we rolled out the letters training, they had just did their ELA adoption. So those of you that were here that approved, it was intentional when we only did 4 through 12.
Yeah.
We knew we were going to have to do this, but it was a conscious decision to give our K-3 teachers a break. And then we had the science adoption, and then we came back to Adam to say, okay, we haven't forgotten, we need to add K-3.
Yeah,
Thank you for that.
thank you.
Any other questions? Member Hall, thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation. And thank you for that, having a plan, right? That's most important. And not forgetting about our young kids. And although they're trying to take books out of schools and all this, that, and the other, and take away our history, this is big. I was reading over a couple of the teachers' comments. One teacher said, "This is exciting to me." So if it's exciting to the teacher, it'll be exciting to the kids because the teacher will give her all, his or her all, to learning this. Hands-on. Right, I'm a hands-on learner. Not everybody is a person that just read and just get it. Like, hands-on is very important. And then state of Ohio standards. So I'm excited about you guys actually taking the time to review this. And then teaching our kids about where we live. Right, we live in the United States of America, so teaching them about a map in their states and things like that, and they can. Some kids that travel, some don't, but you can pinpoint. Oh, I've been here, I've been there. Maybe I want to go here for vacation, Mom and Dad. So just thank you for that, and I appreciate this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Member Alexander.
Thank you, Mr. Motter. I appreciate the presentation. I have 2 questions. One, with the K through 12 program, with the kindergartners, how are those teachers integrating that into their? How are they using it? Is there using some type of? Is there a certain technique? Is there certain maybe animals or different things that they're using? How are they using that?
There is. So you've probably seen the big rugs in the kindergarten classes where the students come and they learn a story. And this curriculum, one of the main characters, they go on. They're going. There's a story involved where they're looking for something. The students, the teacher can help read it to the students. The students then maybe, are coloring or learning words or learning ideas. So it does look different in kindergarten and sometimes first grade too. But our primary, as you know, our primary teachers are absolutely fantastic at taking in a very large spectrum of learners and working through these concepts and ideas, which is what we need them to learn. Incidentally, the standards for social studies math, science, and ELA really intersect at kindergarten. You can read them separately, and you can say, I see that one in social studies. I see that one in science. So they do all kind of blend together. And as you've probably all heard from our kindergarten teachers, they say, I teach everything all the time. And they're not lying when they say that. So.
Okay. That's what I was hoping to hear, because I think with the kids that age, they're learning, but it's got to really be fun to them, because we want it to be more like structure like other classes, but I don't think we can do that with them, because it's got to be fun, and then they want to come and they want to learn. Then the other question was the AP European History. You said that's appropriate for the pathway at Firestone. Does that go to any other schools as well, or does it fit into any other schools that have AP classes at their schools?
It doesn't. It's just for Firestone, and here's why. When pre-IB students, we just have the IB program at Firestone. As these students matriculate through, they have to take OST testing they have to get their U.S. history and their government for OST and requirements. The IB of Americas can count for their other required coursework, but should a student be in pre-IB and then they move away from IB and still want to take college coursework, they've already taken AP U.S. History. They've already taken AP Government, which is district-wide. They almost need a different AP elective if they want to take it. So we provide it for them because, we want as many pathways for our students as possible. The other one that we have in the district over at STEM is AP Human Geography for similar reasons. But the AP Euro, especially for the pre-IB student that they're tracking toward college, they want it to count for their Western Civ class that's usually required in most majors. That AP Euro satisfies it. So they're walking away from Firestone with many times their political science, their U.S. history, and their world history requirement if they choose this pathway. That's why we have it at Firestone.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Dr. Molnar?
Thank you. I will echo the thank yous that everybody else has given. And in addition to that, I really appreciated how you pointed out the Robert Marzano and the foundational use of nonfiction text, because as you mentioned, K through 3 or pre-K through 3, not just in our district but across our state and across our country, the use of social studies has kind of taken a back seat to traditional English language and learning to read, but using reading to learn is what I see in the program that you have selected here, and that is really exciting for me because I am a huge nonfiction text person, as my children's bookshelf at home will show you. So here they can really have great opportunities. This seems really wonderful. I did have a question. It does seem on one page here that there's almost more than you can possibly achieve in a single school year of materials, which is really exciting with all the hands-on materials here. And I would really hope that the teachers are as excited and remain as excited as they seem now in using all those hands-on materials during the school day. But I saw that there was also an online platform with pre-built, on one of these slides it said with pre-built assessments. And so I was wondering if this might be an opportunity for students to have access to this, if it's been discussed, access to this over the summer and continuing to read and access the nonfiction text in the social studies curriculum over the summer on their Chromebooks for just additional support if we still have the licenses. Is that something that?
I will, I've wrote it down and we will absolutely get back to you on the exact answer. And I'm thinking in my head as well, and there's, by the way, there's nonfiction reading and stories that will be available in this adoption online for the students. And I'm hearing also the question be, among our many catalogs of things that we have available, would this also be available? We'll find out, and we'll make sure we get back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? I did have one final question. At one of the recent conferences I attended, it was around civics, and it talked about how, in general, most citizens are just not knowledgeable. And so I'm just wondering, I know we get a touch of it at the secondary level, but is there any civics embedded at the pre-K through 3 level?
Great question. Thank you. Yes, there is. And we do more, I'd like to think we do more than a touch in social studies with civics in secondary. It's a very important part of the social studies. That is our goal, by the way. We want our students, when they leave the Akron Public Schools, to be a ready, important, positive, focused, civic-minded member of our community. And that is our goal. And secondary is an incubator for learning how to do just that. But in primary, it does look different. And it starts actually with what are your rights, but also your responsibilities. So learning what the word responsibility is really important in primary social studies education. What are rules? Why are rules fair? Why are they different sometimes? What are the rules in my classroom? What are the responsibilities in my classroom? In my school, with my teacher, with my principal, in my family. So starting out in social studies education, and by the way, all of our elementary teachers they always start with this every school year. Now we have hands-on engaging activities to help students unpack that across all of our elementary schools, which is going to be very exciting. And it looks like that. And you build from there. And that's why those foundations are so important.
Thank you, Dr. Motter. Dr. Motter. Mr. Motter. Yes. Okay, we appreciate your presentation. If there's no other questions, again, we just thank you for all the work around this.
Yes, ma'am, of course.
So it will be displayed out here?
It is.
Like
it's already displayed.
Okay.
You guys are ready to go. You can check it out and keep the globes on the tables. But you will enjoy, and all the grade levels are there. You will enjoy looking at the textbooks themselves for how it just brings in the students. You'll get it. You'll see that immediately when you start meandering through it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our second presentation of the day is a recruitment overview. So I'm going to invite Mrs. Angela Carter and Mr. Larry Johnson Jr. up to the podium. Just Larry? All right, Mr. Johnson's going to handle it.
Wayne, if you know me from, if you know.
So I'm going to pull up his presentation as he gets ready. Yeah,
In the phone book.
You didn't bound it?
I think there's,
Wait, this is one packet for me?
is that one packet for them to keep?
We're going to go by each of those papers one by one. This is a 15-minute presentation, so it's going to be quick. JK. All right. This? All right. I'm going to go through this presentation. There are a couple of pieces here that I'm going to go through really quickly to get to questions. What you have in front of you is the substitute data request from January to March, and then you have it broken down by fill rate for March by school. So I'm going to go over that once we get there, but we're going to spend a little bit of time getting through this. I'd like to thank Dr. Robinson for giving me a whole slide for recruitment and retention just for my part of my job. As you know, our mission and our vision for Akron Public Schools is it touches the 4 cornerstones in our blueprint. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about each of these cornerstones, but we're going to spend a little bit of time in Culture 1, 2, and a little bit in Cornerstone 3. Today we're going to go over 4 things, well 5, I added another piece in there. We're going to showcase our collaboration initiatives. We're going to talk a little bit about how we prepare and how we deliver our job fair participation. We're going to talk about how we've organized our marquee events, our standard events here in Akron Public Schools, our talent fair and our Teacher Expo. And most importantly, this is my favorite piece, is we have 2 paths for our Grow Your Own program, and we're going to talk a little bit about each of those pieces today. At the request of this chair, we are looking into Teach for America. Now, this next comment is no shade to Teach for America. We've reached out to Teach for America, Angela and myself both on separate occasions. They've gotten back to us, and I told Dr. Robinson this, they've gotten back to us and said, we have some time maybe later in April, to give you some specifics. So what we have is a really high 75,000-foot view of Teach for America. We don't have any specifics until we get a chance to meet with them. So essentially, these are the things that Teach for America does. They recruit, they apply. Their applicants normally come from different majors other than education. Teach for America teachers are trained to continue to have professional development through their teaching experience. And during their 2-year period, teachers can choose to earn their master's degree in education. And once we have more information, we will share that with you. Right now, we have a couple of dates sent to Teach for America. Once they confirm those dates, we can get into the specifics of how Teach for America works with districts and what that looks like. Regarding our efforts to recruit in Akron Public Schools, this is the team that helps get this done. I was going to share with you their code names, but I'm not going to do that to them because I don't want anybody seeing Yolanda in the elevator saying, yo-yo, that's her name, or Special K for Teresa. But these are the people that help sit with me weekly. Unfortunately for them, they get the unfortunate pleasure to work with me weekly to figure out what are the things that we can do to kind of close some of these gaps and increase recruitment and retention for our schools. Our goal is to have a fully staffed Akron Public Schools at the beginning of this year. I added communications because when we market our events, they are the people that do that. Marsha Pullman has been incredibly important and responsive to some of this work, and so I wanted to give them a little bit of a shout out. Some of the work seems easy. Just go and do this. Just go to a fair. But as I'm doing this work, I can promise you it's a lot more complicated than that. So I want to double click on some of the things that we've been doing with our DataWise work. So this comes out of step 2 in DataWise, and it simply asks us to be a little more curious when we're looking at data. Now you have a ton of data there, and I'm not going to call you out to stay low on the ladder of inference. However, I would encourage you, as you're looking at your data, to allow yourself to drift off into what Dr. Chapman says to me all the time. What else do we need to know? What else do we need to know before we do this? In the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see it's the mindset of our profile for an employee here in Akron Public Schools. And those are the things that have helped anchor some of this work. As many of you may know, my department or division touches a lot of divisions. So I'm only as effective as my ability to be collaborative with all of the divisions. So what you see here is just a part of the work that I do with human capital and the recruitment team here in Akron Public Schools. So first, our collaboration in building relationships. Akron Public Schools is a part of the Camera Association, so it's the Cleveland Area Multicultural Educators Recruitment Association. Our goal is to work together to recruit multicultural educational professionals to our school districts. So from around the Cleveland area, Cleveland, Barberton, Maple Heights, Warrensville, all of those school districts come together and we collaborate on finding strategies to increase the recruitment of multicultural teachers to our programs. To no surprise, all of our districts are struggling with the teacher shortage. You're going to hear a little bit about that a little bit later on. What we have done is we've shared we've shared resumes and candidates with each other as we've crossed paths with them. So there's a young lady, for example, from Mount Union who is a book deal graduate, and she's looking to come back to Akron Public Schools. I will tell you her name later. I don't want to put her on blast on the microphone, but I've called her several times. I'm looking for her to call me back because we have a position that we'd like for her. We're interested in her feeling. She wants to come back and be a phys ed teacher. She's going to graduate in May, so we're hopeful that she's able to do that. Our university partners, I work with the University of Akron and Kent State with their teachers and their field placement courses. I am often in their classes meeting with, building relationships with some of these upper level students in junior and senior year. So I spend a little bit of time talking to these students about why Akron Public Schools is important to us and what they need to do on their next steps as they're deciding where they'd like to work. The Harrington Scholarship is part of our collaboration. Harrington Scholarship is a scholarship with the University of Akron. It's established in 2020. It was our first scholarship. Harrington Scholarship essentially identifies students that are interested in being a teacher. And it's a last chance scholarship. In other words, whatever scholarships, whatever monies that the students get, the Harrington Scholarship fills the gap. So it ends up being a full ride scholarship, tuition, room and board, and books for students who are interested in being a teacher in Akron Public Schools. Upon graduation, we then commit to them employment in Akron Public Schools for 3 years. If they choose to go someplace else, it ends up being a 3-year loan for them that they're going to have to pay back. Our first winner of this scholarship came from Bookdale High School. He is scheduled to graduate this year. Our second winner of this scholarship graduated from Firestone High School. She is graduating this year and has a letter of intent and is applying to Akron Public Schools in special education. Super excited about completing that circle. We don't know this year's scholarship recipient. We won't find that out until later on. But this is a super cool collaboration with the University of Akron, and I'm super excited that we're going to have our first Harrington Scholar that's going to be an Akron Public Schools teacher. The next piece is our participation in job fairs, and this is really just, if there's a job fair, somebody emails me, I register, we attend, and our goal is to recruit as many highly qualified candidates as possible. We've talked about simply looking for unicorns. So some of these are some of the fairs that we've gone to. Noted, we just had this bolded because it was last week. I thought this presentation was last week, so noted was just last week. I talked a little bit about the teacher shortage. Pre-COVID, this noted fair had 400 to 500 students. There were a little over 200 students at this fair. I tried to give out 55 letters of intent, but my recruitment team would not let me do that because the director of human capital would fight me if I did that. So our goal is to make sure that we cover and we find as many unicorns. If they're the right person for Akron Public Schools, we want to get them in and close the deal as quickly as possible. We went to JOGS a couple of weeks ago where we met with a little over 200 students across the area that are in the JOGS program. They were somewhere from between sophomores and juniors. That was a nice event to see where students are interested in going as they move through their high school careers. The next piece is our talent and our teacher expo. These are our signature events. So our talent fairs, we've had 3 talent fairs. We'll have another one here at the end of, right as we get through testing, and then we'll have a couple more in the summer. The talent fairs are mostly designed to pull long-term substitutes, support staff, custodians, bus drivers, nutrition specialists, et cetera. Our teacher expo is designed to recruit anyone who's interested in teaching in Akron Public Schools, a recent graduate or someone that is interested in coming to Akron. We just had it. It was a really nice event. It was during It was during the board meeting, but one of the things that I enjoyed about this event was we had a panel, not a teacher panel, but we had a panel that was filled with some of our Akron Public Schools leaders. Marcy Ebright was one of the participants, and it was such a refreshing opportunity to hear from the students. They asked questions, and our panel provided answers to those questions from an Akron Public Schools lens. It was a really intimate and great event. We were able to sign and hire 4 so far of those candidates, with another 3 to be continued. One just interviewed last week in phys ed, and we have a couple more that I know we're on the pipeline for bringing on to Akron Public Schools. So we'll have another teacher expo hopefully before the end of the school year, but this was our big one to get the students early before they go someplace else. The next piece is our Grow Your Own. So one of the things we talk about in camera is how do we control and make sure that we can keep candidates in our district while offering an opportunity for professional growth from people within our district. So Grow Your Own is a state organization, or it's a state initiative that offers a scholarship for up to $7,500 per year for 4 years for candidates that meet the criteria. The criteria is simply they have to be working in Akron Public Schools or in a district that's of need. Akron Public Schools meets that criteria. And then if they're awarded the scholarship, they have 4 years to get their teaching criteria. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a scholarship. The way we worked through this opportunity was I sent out an email to everybody in Akron Public Schools asking them to nominate someone who they think would be a good candidate for Akron Public Schools to be a teacher. So they're already working, but they think that these will be good candidates for teachers. We had 178 responses. A lot of those were duplicates. Out of those 178 responses, we have 60 applications at the state that applied for this scholarship. We haven't found out yet. We should find out within the next couple of weeks how many of these candidates are ours. It's a really short application. I'm anticipating getting a lot of candidates through this. The big thing with this is a quick turnaround. So this is a 1 to 2 year strategy for us. These candidates are long-term substitutes, secretaries, or security guards. They're already working in our district. They already know the district. This scholarship, once they commit to it, they will then be employed by us or another district of need. So if there's another district that meets this criteria and they want to go to that district, they can do that. And this opportunity, and I think we're going to spend a little bit more time with this at the Equity Committee, but this was really born out of a conversation that really goes back to that ladder of inference. So Dr. Chapman and I, we collaborate on a number of things. This was one of them. We were kind of in the hallway talking about how can we create an opportunity for students, for our employees, our paraprofessionals to have an opportunity, because as you know, they have tuition reimbursement. Well, you may not know this, but they have a tuition reimbursement that's part of their contract. But the way it works now is the tuition reimbursement is, if I'm an employee as a paraprofessional, I can go to school, I pay for the courses, I submit the courses that I took, and then I get reimbursed. There's a bucket for that in our line items as part of their contract. We will be coming to ask for more money later, but as of right now, there's a finite item. There's a finite amount of money that we have in there. One of the reasons why this bubbled up is because we had 80 recommendations in the first opportunity, 80 recommendations of teachers that said this paraprofessional would make a great teacher, which told me that there's something here that we have to figure out. And it took a little bit of time, but as Carla and I spent a little bit of time talking, Carla said, what about Stark State? So Carla and I met with Stark State, and Stark State is going to waive, we're working on an MOU, that's to be continued, but they're going to waive the upfront cost to our employees. So as a paraprofessional who's pursuing to be a teacher in Akron Public Schools, they are not going to have to pay the upfront costs. We will be billed for that cost. We, being Akron Public Schools, will be billed for that cost we have that bucket. We will not go over that amount. But this is a great opportunity for our paraprofessionals to really have an opportunity to pursue their dreams and goals of being a teacher without the hardship of finding the money up front. As you know, these our paraprofessionals are one of the lowest paid professionals that we have in Akron Public Schools. This, as an equity lens, is exactly what it sounds like. It's just removing the obstacles for our employees. We're going to talk a little bit more about how we came up with that in the equity committee, but it's just a great opportunity. Carla, do you want to talk a little bit? No? Okay. I mean, if you want to be excited, I'm at 10 minutes, or I have 5 minutes left. All right. These are the ideas that are still on the shelf. Referral bonuses, staffing agency, alumni, tiered signing bonuses, wages and benefits, and job sharing. Now, the last thing that we have for you is your substitute teacher reports in Akron Public Schools. So I'm going to go through a little bit of what you have, but as you're looking at that big chunk of data, that large packet that you have, those are the individual incidents for each school in Akron Public Schools by school. So if you wanted to know how many teachers called off from Elliott in the month of March, you can see that without identifying the teacher. But what I do have for you is the cohort. So these are the elementary numbers and themes. And these are the fill rates for March. Now, this is where I would encourage you to ask, what else do we need to know? Because some of what else you need to know may be hidden in some of the data that you have, and some of it may be hidden someplace else. We may or may not have those answers for you immediately, but this is where I would be curious. I would encourage you to just be more curious about more than what you see. What else is missing? What else do you need to know? By middle school, and then these are the fill rates for the middle schools.
Madam Chair, quick question. Don't interrupt. When you say fill rates, what exactly does that mean? Is it that we have this amount of teachers here, or this is what we need to fill?
For March, Higher had a fill rate of 64%. 64% of their absences were filled in March.
Okay.
So if 100 teachers called off in March, 64 teachers, we had subs for 64 of those teachers. And this is for high school. And these are the fill rates for high school. Questions?
With these numbers that we're looking at, are we seeing a pattern maybe at either certain teachers, certain schools, certain clusters?
That's a great, what else do we need to know? I'm sure. I'm sure.
Okay.
We've looked at this data before. We were surprised, pleasantly surprised, that instructional improvement days, when we last examined this, was not the biggest hit, but Tuesdays, Thursdays were the biggest the last time we looked at this. But that's one of those questions where it's what else do we need to know?
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. 'Cause I just trying to think a little different and think outside the
Sure.
box and saying, okay, if I'm in administration, what are some patterns I might be looking at that I might need to address because of, for whatever reasons it's going on? That give me an opportunity to dig a little bit more and say what's going on. So that's a long piece right there.
I mean,
so I'll let that go.
That's a great example. And I would, as you're looking at these numbers, compare some of these numbers with some of the outcomes that you're seeing with some of our schools. Some of our schools and our administrators are dealing with the tough task of finding substitutes, looking at higher. They're dealing with the tough task of finding substitutes sometimes in the morning. Right? So that's a really great question. Are there any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. First, I want to say shout out to Reimer and Early College because they both had 100% fill rates. So as we look at what else do we need to know, not just looking at buildings that have low fill rates, but the buildings that are getting 100%, those might have hints of other things we need to know also.
Cool.
So I wanted to point that out. But then my question for you is, so for all of the other buildings, is it safe to assume that without a substitute, principals are filling in as substitutes, or what is happening in the buildings
Yes.
without the 100% fill rate?
Yes, so our principals filling in as subs, sometimes, yes. Sometimes teachers cover those classrooms on their planning period, yes. Every building has a system and a procedure that they use to fill these subs whenever we don't have subs to cover. Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, to my understanding, by visiting some schools, learning about absentees and how teachers and principals, like you said, have to go in and fill these classes. And some of the teachers may not have a lunch or a planning period or, whatever it is to fill these classes. And then teachers are paid an additional stipend when they have to fill
They're
a
paid
class.
an
Is that
additional
correct?
rate if they have to fill, correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Are we seeing that teachers are willing
Yes.
to fill the class to get that extra, or are they not wanting to fill the class or leave their planning period or
Yes.
lunch?
Teachers are willing to fill the class.
Some teachers, not all, or are we seeing a
It
high
just-
amount? Because I'm hearing different, so I'm just.
It depends on the period. It depends on the building. That's another one of those.
So
what
it
else do
depends
we
on the
need to know?
building is kind of also a big issue too, right?
Not an issue. It's just one of the things we would need to know. So, in higher, for example, depending on the period or depending on the teacher that's called off, depending on the period that teacher has classes, and depends on who else is off during those class times, is what teachers can cover. Does that make sense? So if I have a planning period on third period and a teacher is off, and they also have a class on third period, I can be asked to cover that. But it depends on the procedures that the buildings have in place to cover those classes internally.
Just one more question, I'm sorry. So what is the process if, say, a teacher at Bookto, right, has a planning period, third planning period, and there's a class that needs a teacher, and they go and say, hey, Mr. Johnson, could you fill this class during your planning period? Does a teacher have the option to say yes or no?
Yes.
So then if they say no, then that class just goes unfilled unless, because a principal, assistant, unit, dean, whatever, could already be
Could be.
taking over another class at the same time.
It could be. But I mean, that's painting with broad strokes. So I would.
I'm sorry, let me finish my question. So then what does that class look like? So yes, answer the first, I guess, that question, but then what does that class look like without a teacher?
And I hate to say this, but it depends a lot on the procedures that the principals and the schools have in place. I'll give you an example. When I was a principal at Firestone, we had a dedicated assistant principal that every day would get there, look at the absences, see how many absences were uncovered, and then there were lists of teachers that had said, in the event that there is an opening, call me, I volunteer as tribune, right? They would go, so there's a list of people that they would go in and they would go in to serve. The second level or layer is who else is available, who can I ask, and if it's no, it's no, and then we get to a place where, hey, we need coverage, can we collapse classes, do we add them to another class, that period, and if we can't do that, then we go to principals and administrators. It depends on what that process is in the building. That's an example of what we did when I was at Firestone.
Thank you. I know we are coming to the close of our meeting, and it's a lot more questions and information that I'm just encouraging everyone to bring back to our next meeting, or definitely email ahead of time. But one of the things that I would like to know more about are how many of these positions are filled by, or absences are in core classes, CCA classes, and then how many of them are long-term subs versus short-term subs for future? And then as far as like ideas, and this is something that I've experienced in the nursing field, you know, a lot of folks can't jump right out and get their bachelor's degree in nursing. And so some start off as a STNA and LPN and so on and so forth. So I'm thinking that's something that we might want to focus on. I was told there are like 3 paraprofessionals working at Buchtel right now who were not in the teacher academy pathway, but somehow they ended up as paraprofessionals now. So just something to consider as we're looking at ideas. Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, we're recruiting heavily from our pathways. So I went to North. I'll be at Buchtel. I'll be at Firestone for paraprofessionals. We think with some of the partnerships that we're developing, we think that what you just described is a viable pathway. Paraprofessionals to teacher to administrator, maybe even to superintendent. Wouldn't that be a great journey?
A lot of these young people, they don't understand, I guess, education. They just definitely don't want to do it. They know that they don't want to do it.
On the contrary, though, there are students, one from Buchtel who's coaching at Buchtel. He graduated from Buchtel, who's a paraprofessional at Ennis. I am recruiting him to be one of our Grow Your Own teachers. He is fantastic. He didn't know that he wanted to be a teacher, and he's still not sure that he wants to be a teacher. But I've seen him in the classroom with kids. He is fantastic. And if we can turn him, those are the kind of stories that this Grow Your Own is designed to do. So yes, I'm double clicking on that.
Thank you.
Yep.
So again, if there's nothing else, Dr. Caver?
We're at time, as you know, so thank you. I just encourage you to read the teaching and learning IP updates that are on the agenda. And thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. We will adjourn at this time at 5:32. Thank you.